today I want to talk about is the bad trip. Generally, I haven't talked about this to too many people. It's kind of like a traumatic experience. You don't generally like to talk about trauma because it's reliving that experience. But for the sake of science, and I'm going to talk about this. So this happened to me over 25 years ago. I was in college at the time. I was working as a waiter. I wanted to get some mushrooms, and a friend of mine who worked as a bartender where I worked said he could get them for me. So he did, and I called a buddy of mine and said, "Hey, I'm getting off early tonight and I got some mushrooms." He's like, "Cool, I'll come over and we'll do them." So I got home probably around 9 o'clock. My buddy met me and we ordered a pizza. I had never taken mushrooms before. I'd had LSD a couple of times before and I really liked it. So we were pretty much looking forward to this, thinking it was going to be similar. And what I got is I got a half ounce. And so my friend and I split that amongst us. And what we did is we ordered a pizza. We had never eaten them before, so we thought, let's put them on this pizza because that's what people do. They eat, mushrooms on pizza. And that was a terrible idea. They're hard to digest. I didn't really eat them very well. More like you swallow them. So that's almost a guaranteed upset stomach right off the bat. Plus you're mixing them with dairy, which can be a problem for some people. And so that wasn't too cool. And this is already getting late at night. So by the time they're kicking in, it's probably around 10 o'clock. I got some notes here. So basically, what I decided to do is I'm going to make a fire because I think it's a cool psychedelic thing. I like the idea of fire and it's cold out. So I'm starting to make this fire and these mushrooms are starting to kick in. And it's really kind of an interesting experience. I feel like I'm a caveman or something, or whatever I'm going through. It feels like I'm the first person who ever made fire, and like everything's disappearing around me. There's just this light coming out, and behind me is darkness, and everything back there is like just the wilderness. I could be out in a fucking desert somewhere, but I'm not. I'm in my living room at my house, and my friend's with me, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there having these weird transcendent thoughts of fire, and there's a breath that comes over me, and my buddy's hovering over me, and he's all, "Hey, have you ever thought about that it really doesn't matter who's sucking your dick? If you close your eyes, it really doesn't matter." And I don't know. I was high. I started to have these weird, again, psychedelic thoughts. And my friend comes over and whispers this strange thing into my ear. And I'm like, was I hearing that right? And it's like, sure enough, he's right there. And it freaked me out. I'm not gay. I don't have gay thoughts. I never thought my friend was gay. I don't know if he was coming on to me or, again, if this is just a weird psychedelic thought. But he said it to me, and it just really kind of freaked me out. And, so I wanted to kind of get away from him. And so I got up and went, tried to go and he'd follow me around wherever I went. And at that point, it just seemed like everything started to kind of get negative and weird, and all the normal things in the past that I'd enjoyed with LSD that had a fun kind of glow or a melt to it instead of being fun, it seemed dark. It seemed really sinister. Let me see here. Yeah, normally we try to listen to music, and if I listened to the Doors or something, instead of sounding cool, it sounded like just dark and creepy, and it didn't make me feel good. Kind of had a scary tone to it. And that's sort of the tone that things started to take on. Like, instead of being fun and cool, it was just creepy and scary and frightening. And furthermore, again, just the fact that my friend had said that, I just kept trying to get away from him and I couldn't. And so that already created another weird vibe that was going on. And so I tried let's try to take a walk and go outside, but it was raining outside, which wasn't a big deal, except it was really, really cold to the point where it was you felt like it was going to freeze. So we decided not to do that. And then all of a sudden we're trapped in the house. And I just remember at some point feeling like I wanted to do everything at once and I couldn't. I wanted to sit down. I didn't know if I should go to the bathroom. I didn't know if I should lay down. I was just feeling totally confused. My mind is spinning. I'm getting these weird images, thinking thoughts I've never thought before, and basically losing my mind and losing control of my mind, and it's spinning out of control in a very negative way. It was just totally confusion. I just know at one point, I felt like I literally came over and I just had to hold on to a countertop. I felt like the world was just spinning away from me and I was losing it. So I had to hold on to something. And, I just wanted everything to stop. It was like a ride, and I wanted off of it, and I couldn't get off, which made it even worse. And this is just a couple hours into it. So, that this thing is going to go on for hours and hours and hours, and you're just feeling like, my God. I honestly, it's like all the weirdness of it. It's hard to remember all of it, but I just know at one point, I wanted to call my mom, who was a nurse, and have her come and bring me something to knock me out, because I couldn't take it. I was just like, and then right at that point, I was able to finally calm down and drift off to sleep. And then, okay, it's the next day, and you think, cool, man, my God, what happened last night? It was just like a horrible nightmare of a dream, and it's like, God damn. But I got to go to school, and it's early class, and so, it was an 8 o'clock class, and it was a poetry class, and so I get to the poetry class, and a little bit late, and they're talking about a poem. I don't remember who it was, but the theme was death. And so the teacher, they're doing like word webs or whatever. They're talking about all these things associated with death. And I'm just sitting there listening to it all, and they're just throwing these words out. She's writing them up, and all of a sudden I'm starting to feel really, really nervous. And I'm starting to get anxious and just feel like, oh my God, dude, it's like I'm going to die. And I get so freaked out that I got to leave the classroom. So I go to the bathroom, and I'm kind of shaking, and I'm feeling like, oh my God, dude, this is just terrible. And what happened is I was experiencing my first panic attack, and it was brought about because even though I had taken these drugs the night before, they're still kind of in your system. And then I got exposed to this weird theme of death, and that just went right into my mind. Your mind is very open. You're very open to suggestion while you're on these drugs. So that basically, that happened when I was about 23, and it took me about 6 or 7 years before I ever tried, any psychedelics again. And in fact, it was mushrooms I finally took again, and it was actually kind of a cool thing because I was really depressed at the time, and it really brought me out of that. But that's another story. But yeah, so the bad trip is something that it can last for quite some time. It's simply not a matter of the trip itself being a terrible experience. It can have a lasting traumatic effect on you. I was really affected to the point where it put me off on this weird quest for the meaning of life. And I shit you not, that lasted a couple of years of just trying to make sense of my life because I had such a weird psychedelic experience. But yeah, it took me 6 or 7 years before I ever would try that again. And that bad trip is bad. It's not fun. So again, things that I did that were really wrong. I'm not even going to get into how wrong the things I did. Well, I could write a book on all the things I did were wrong, but you got to remember back then, the internet wasn't what it is. Most of the knowledge was word of mouth and talking to people. And so it wasn't like I was, there were books that were available but a lot of people didn't go into these types of things like they do now. So words of wisdom, obviously it's easy to go and learn about. You have a sitter with you if you need it. You can fast before you take any mushrooms. You don't want to mix them with dairy. You probably don't want to start off eating, a quarter of mushrooms on your first trip. And definitely don't want to go to a place the very next day and immerse yourself in there with themes of death. But yeah, that's it. Just something to think about. Just thought I'd share that with you. Anyway, man, there you go. Bad trip. Think about it. Hope you don't have one.